Hey guys, we're back. All right, so let's move on here with this. So now we have ability to create components. So that's good stuff, good stuff. All right, so now a component without any kind of props, it's kind of I wouldn't say pointless. It's not pointless. Reusable components, whether they're functional or not, they're still a good thing. But now there's the word functional components. A component that is reusable but it's also a functional component and it has functionality to it and it has properties to it. That's where the real benefit comes in. Okay, that's the ticket right there, is to be able to use that same component and not just copy paste it, by just saying component and put component everywhere, but to say component. Now this component, make it so that, let's say it's a button, right? This component called button, right, of color red, button color blue, button color green. So that way you can use that same component but modify it with specific props that make it unique, but without having to actually put a bunch of code every time you use it everywhere. So you just put one line of code just to declare it, the prop, and what you want changed inside the prop, and that's all you need. So to create that, you have to create what is called reusable functional component. Reusable functional component. The reusable comes from the props. The functional comes, because it has functionality that you can absorb from its own TypeScript file, and the component because it's a compartmentalized piece of code that you can basically take anywhere within the application, and it's not an entire page. Okay, let's move on. So we don't want this to be inside parts, right? Parts is going to be, like I said earlier in the previous videos. Again, if you haven't seen these videos, go back and watch those. And I guess I should tell you, if you want to subscribe or if you want to hit the bell so you can get more notifications or whatever, it's up to you. You go ahead. I'm not really too crazy about asking for subscriptions, but they keep telling me that I should remind you. I just keep forgetting every video. Some people remind you in every video. I forget all the time. I'm not good at this. But anyway, so if you haven't watched how to create a component in detail, go back to the last video. But we're gonna go ahead and create a new one, and it's going to be inside components. Now this right here, I already have this right here that I created, all of this nonsense up here, right? So if you click arrow up on this, you'll be able to pull back, you'll be able to go back on your history, and then down, arrow down to go back to where you need to go, right? Or empty. So I want to use this because I kind of already did this before, so no need to rewrite everything. But the only thing that I'm going to rewrite is because it is still a component and it's still a generate, and I still want to skip tests, but it's going to be in a different place this time. It's going to be in components, because this one is going to be an actual component that I'm going to be using. So it's called components, yeah, okay, just making sure that I didn't misspell. And this one is going to be a page title, so I'm gonna call it page title. Yep, just like that, page title. Yeah, page title is fine. Hit enter and it would just do the exact same thing that we did before. It's gonna tell us that it created these 3 files for us and it updated the app module for us. Kudos. All right, thank you, Angular. All right, so now if we open the components folder, we can see there is a page title folder in there, and it has 3 parts in there. Again, I'm not going to use this CSS, so I'm just going to delete that, and that's probably going to break. Yep, that's going to break because the TypeScript has it defined in here, and it doesn't exist because we deleted it. So let's delete it there and save it. Oh, one more thing. I want to delete this app because I hate using that, and I'm gonna take that out. All right, cool. So we're where we need to be, right? Well, this is at the very beginning of your component creation. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is I'm going to now go ahead and use this. So we know that it's called page title, right? So if I go to, should I make the page? I think I should make the page, because this is going to be used on every page differently. The about page is going to have a different title, and so is the home page. So this is not really part of the header, which is, right now we have two components in here. We have the main component and we have the header component. Well, this is not going to be part of the main global component, right? The app component. And it's not going to be part of the header either. This is going to be part of the page itself. So I think I should do the page. Let's go back down here. Let's go back up again, and then let's delete that part at the end. And then this one is going to be in pages. Pages/home. Hit enter, and now we have another component added to our list, home, and then it has a home component. Great. So let's do some modifications to this. Let's go to the TypeScript here. Let's delete this CSS because we're not really gonna need it, and let's delete this app. Let's hit save, and then we're gonna come over here and manually delete the CSS because we're not gonna need it. Alright, cool. Now we can go ahead and use this. So because we have, let me see, what do I have here? Let's delete this main header stuff and that. Alright, so we got two folders here, two things here to deal with. We have this component. I'll put it on this side actually. I put it on this side so that you can see the structure, right? The parent to children, like that. So we have this page title that is going to be inside this home component, right? And how do you use it is basically by this selector, because I created a selector. Oh, actually CLI did, but I updated it. And then I'm going to come here to my home component, and I'm going to open the HTML for it, for my home thing, right? And I'm going to go ahead and put here home component, what is it? Page title. Yeah. Page title. There you go. Cool. So it's gonna say page title. Now that's inside the home component, but it's not showing here. Why? Because the home component is not really being pulled inside your app component. So I need to call my app component in here, and then inside this container I am going to delete that and put home in there so that I can bring in my home component, and then now we can see that it says page title works. So why does it say page title works and not home works? Okay, well, although this is calling home, when we go to home we can see that there is no home works. We took it out. Instead we're having page title in here, and that page title is coming from here, the page title component, which it's HTML says page title works. So there is a hierarchical step to all of this, and that's fine. Alright, so what we're going to do here is we're going to actually create some coding here, right? We're going to actually start putting in the stuff that we need. So so first thing we're going to do, I don't know if we're going to need a container because it already has a container, so let's not do that, but let's do at least a wrapping div, something to wrap it up. Okay, so I'm just going to create, no, that's not what I wanted. I typed it somewhere else. Let's just create a div, just so we can encapsulate our code inside a parent div. Okay, this is not like React where you can just use fragments by doing this. Okay, you can't do this in Angular. Fortunately, you got to use a div. All right, so this is our page title. Our page title is going to be possibly an h1 tag, so we're going to have h1, and the h1 tag then is going to say what kind do we want to put a header on this. Let me see what I had on the other, on the stuff that, what do you call it, the curriculum here, the class notes. Okay, actually I did have some stuff here. So so let's go ahead and use a class for this div, and this doesn't really have to make a whole lot of sense to you. Just kind of just go ahead and type it, copy it, pause the video, copy that, paste it. But basically what it is doing is creating a flex box container around this component, and then aligning the items inside it in the center, and then justify the content to the edges. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm going to have an H1 tag in here on the far edge, and then I'm going to have below that a button that is going to be on the far right. So because I want to keep them separated at all times, that's why I'm doing these classes right here. Now, where do these classes come from? They come from Bootstrap already, so you don't have to actually go to the CSS and make these classes and then do something to them. They are already working. So this is the good thing about going, make sure you go into Bootstrap and then read a little bit about what is available to you there, so that you don't have to recreate things that already exist. Okay. All right, so now the H1 tag does have a class name, a class as well, and this one is going to be a class is called display 5, and it's basically again another class that is available to us from Bootstrap. Okay, so you don't have to redeclare it. Then we're gonna go ahead and name it. For now, we're just gonna name it. No props yet. We're just gonna name it. Okay, and this one is gonna say homepage. Okay, homepage. Yeah, sure. Let's name it homepage. And then down here, we're going to add the button that we want, and this one is going to be a button class. So it's going to be just button, not button class, button element. But the class that we're going to use on this is going to be a BTN, which is again a class that already exists in Bootstrap, a BTN class, and we're gonna put a BTN secondary, which is it's gonna pull the secondary color into it, and then we're going to we're eventually gonna add a click event to it, but we're not gonna do that just yet. Now here we're gonna call it add. Yeah, we're gonna call it add for now. All right, oops, that's not what I wanted. Just add, there you go. And hit enter. Now when I hit enter, you can see, there you go. There's home page and add right there. All right, so we're working on it. Now I wonder why this is not pulling the CSS that I created. This is so weird, because it should have, let me go back to the CSS for a second here. Wait a minute. Bootstrap CSS. How about now? Let's see. There it is. Okay. So now it's using, when I click on secondary, it brought in the color that I had declared as secondary before up here. Before, it was bringing in just some gray color. The reason why is because though I was making all of these color declarations and color changes in here, I wasn't importing Bootstrap itself so that these theme colors could be implemented onto their own CSS first, and then compiled together and then shown here as the new one. So now if I wanted to change this one right here to purple, for example, then all of this blue stuff will become purple, because I'm using the secondary class for all of this blue stuff. Okay, all right. So this is a side note to this video. Sorry I didn't catch that earlier. It happens. All right, so let me go ahead and close this. So anyway, where were we? All right, so we were able to add this homepage ad or whatever, right? So that's good. Now here's the thing. So far so good. So far this is weird looking. Just gonna put home. Okay, so this is cool because we can do this now. We can go ahead and add this this component in a bunch of places. So like for example, just for shits and giggles, I could come over here and I could do this, and it would just repeat the same component a bunch of times, right? But we don't want that. We want to make sure that we are able to reproduce this component a bunch of times by putting home, about, contact, so like each page, so that way not every page will be named home, right? Each page will have a page, a descriptive title page for it. So we're going to, let's see, where do I want to start here? All right. All right, so this is what we're gonna do then. So if we go to not the page title, but the button itself, do I create a button for this page title? All right, I'm trying to see if we need a button for this or not. I could probably put it inside the page. Let's put it inside the page. Normally, I think, yeah, let's put it inside the page because the page title is the one that contains the H1 of the button. So I'm just gonna do, normally you will have each one of these in their own specific components, right? So you have a button component and then an H1 component, and then have them, again, the separation concern. So you can do if you want, you can do that if you want, but I'm going to do both into the same page title component and then just use the page title component as a whole. So I know it's a little weird, but doesn't sound like it, like I'm making it a lot of sense, but you'll see later. So first thing, how to use the way that I will be able to manage the name and the button name and all that stuff, and the name of the page is with props, right? That's what you will call it. If you were in React, you will call it props. However, in Angular, there is no props, so to speak. I mean, they are, but they're not named props. So what they call it is they call it input. So we're gonna go ahead and import input. If I could type, there you go. We're gonna import input. All right, and then and then inside the component in here, we're gonna bring in the decorator of input. And that is going to be, it's going to use parentheses, and then in there we're going to declare a couple of things. So what do we want to declare? We're going to declare the title, so we're just going to do this, and we're going to, we know that the title is going to be a string all the time, so we're going to declare the type of prop. So this is like, again, if it was React, it will be called prop types. So this is the same thing. It's basically just safeguarding or type scripting, right? The actual prop that you're going to be sending. So yeah, so it's going to be a title of string. So you're basically saying right here is like, hey, define this prop called title and make sure that it is going to be a string type of prop. All right, so that's one thing we're going to need. We're going to need this string for that. And then we're going to need another one for the name of the button. So let's call that one button text. So input, let's do that. What am I doing? I'm really messing this up. There we go. BTN text. Well, let's call that BTN text, and that's also going to be a string. All right. And let's see what other props I am using here. All right, so button text, button text. Okay, I think that's all that I used on the other. I'm trying to reference with the React application that we created this on, so that way it kind of looks similar. So I want to make sure what props I used there and use them here as well. And it looks like that's all we have for now until we do other things. But for right now, this is all we need. All right, cool. So we have this. We have these two props available to us right now, right? So if I hit save, and you know they're used in there. Okay, so now since we already declared the props that we're going to be using, we're going to go over here to the construction of our component, right? Remember, this right here is how we're constructing it together. What we did before was basically just declare what props we're going to be using in its own TypeScript, and then we're going to go to its own HTML. So this is all happening within still the same component, okay? Though I'm changing files, I'm not outside of page title. I'm still inside of page title. So just make sure that you know where to create this stuff. We're going to change this. We're gonna put a double curly brackets for string interpolation, and we're gonna pass a title prop. So we're basically saying that we're telling Angular to put in here whatever the title is going to be, right? And then the button text is going to be the add button now becomes button text. So if I hit enter, you see that it's empty, right? So now I can come here to wherever I'm using it and declare what the text, what the values is going to be for these props. Where am I using this? I think it's in the home component. Yeah, in the home component. So now I can come over here and say I want my title for the first one, to be home, and I want the button text to be add. And if I hit enter, there, I should see that. So now if I come over here and do this, and this one was about, and this one was contact, and this one was services content. Yep, there you go. This one will say for the about, let's say add, it will say see more, and then the contact will be I don't know, call us. There you go, call us. Okay, but then in services I don't want anything in there, right? So if I hit enter, now you see how my component is actually doing what I wanted it to do. I wanted to be able to just call a component and change the props and then give it the value that I want. Home, add, about, see more, contact, colors, services. What the hell is this, right? So this is wrong. This is not wrong. I'm saying this is bad. You don't want to be able to use this this component and then have an undeclared prop produce some empty stuff, right? You want to be able to you want to be able to account for what happens if something is not declared. So there are several things you can do. You could have a defaulted value inside the page component in here that the button text would go to, right? If you didn't declare something, but you don't want to do that because you don't want to have some arbitrary name for some button to be whatever, right? So the best idea will be if the button text is not present, then go ahead and hide it, basically. Okay, so in the page titling here, this is where I would then create a conditional statement, so to speak. All right, so in other languages you will have some type of some type of JavaScript wrapped around this, you know, but because Angular does what is called, again, separation of concerns, right, where they have HTML separated from TypeScript, you know, and all that stuff, you have to put this conditional statement into, you can't put a JavaScript conditional statement just like this, like you would do, like for example in other places where button text and then some ternary function, and then say for example if the button text is if not, then null, right? So yeah, see that it breaks. So technically you can't really do that because the template is meant for HTML only. It's not meant to work this way like it would happen in other languages, right? So this will be perfect in React, because React allows for JavaScript to run inside of their own file, because they are JSX files. And I don't know why I'm talking about React in an Angular tutorial, but I feel like a lot of people that come to Angular tutorials come from React as well, or have some knowledge of React and Vue. So I think it's good to know all of them. But anyway, if you didn't understand anything that I just said, don't worry about it. Just get this part only. Don't use JavaScript and HTML together in a Angular HTML partial file inside the component. It's not gonna work. However, what we do have available to us from Angular is the ability to use specific selectors. I don't know what the right name for this is, but it's specific instructions that we can use in HTML that Angular has already provided for us. And this one is going to be ngIf. So what we can say here is ngIf button text. I'm thinking, oh, yep, I messed up. So ngIf button text. So what that does, this ngIf is basically Angular behind the, underneath the hood, behind the scenes, and closed curtains back there in the workshops. They already created that JavaScript that I just kind of put there before this. They created that JavaScript and then they masked it. They did a mask. They masked it with this instruction right here so that you can use it just like this, and it will be a lot easier to use, where you're basically saying that Angular, if something is true, then do it, then show this entire thing, but if it's not, then don't do it. So this is a lot faster. So I'm basically using the button text as a way to conditionally show this entire button. So as you can see now, the button is not even showing because in the declaration in here, where I not declare, but in the call where I call this particular component in here, I didn't declare any button text, and because I didn't declare it, then it didn't show up. If I were to actually now declare one, then it will become, then this right here will no longer be it will become true now. It will become true. It will become that it would exist. So if I declare now, because it exists, it will show up and there will be a button there. Make sense? Cool. So basically that is how you use, I'm gonna go ahead and delete all of this stuff because we're not gonna use all of that stuff, but this is now how you're going to be using this page title basically in every page. In the home page, I'm using it here, but once I have an about page, I will basically be bringing in this entire same thing over there, but then changing this for about and maybe leaving this alone if I don't need it, or if I need it, I'll name it something else. Cool. All right. Well, I hope this wasn't too crazy to understand. I know props usually are a daunting concept for people who don't understand props, but you'll get it eventually with enough practice. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one.